Okay, we are live on YouTube. So, Mr. Chair, I'll do a roll call vote if you'd like.
Yes, please.
Chair Dial,
Here.
Secretary Hensick, Board Member Senenai,
Here.
Board Member Bierman.
Here.
Travis, I did say here, but I was muted.
Thank you. Board Member Ritter, Alternate Welker,
Here.
Alternate Bartlesmeyer,
Here.
Alternate Loja,
Here.
and we have Ms. McCutcheon with us tonight as well.
Here.
Thank you.
Thank you.
First thing on the agenda, other than what we just did, is the review of the draft meeting minutes. Has everyone had a chance to look at those? And does anyone have any comments or corrections? I looked at them. I didn't see anything unusual.
Me either, but I wasn't at the last meeting, so.
Okay,
They
well,
look
then,
good.
Fine.
then I make a motion to approve those meeting minutes, and I need a second.
I will second that motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
Anybody opposed?
Aye.
Okay, that passes. They're approved. We have one agenda item tonight, which is a second review of the architectural elevations and related materials for the new fire station for Monarch Fire Protection District. Last time we talked about this, we went through the entire design and we came up with a few things that we asked them to send back, and that's why we're here tonight. So does somebody want to address those items one by one, or how do we want to handle that? Do you want to do that, Joe?
Mr. Chair, just a couple of things. I believe Mr. Newberry is trying to bring in all the representatives from the Monarch Fire Protection District and their design team. I think he's accomplished that while you were doing your introductory remarks. I do just want to note that along with the architectural package that the Fire Protection District did provide for tonight's meeting, the department also included its site plan review comments, so you could kind of see the parallel course that is underway with the Planning and Zoning Commission. And if you have any comments regarding that letter and any of the items associated with it, Mr. Newberry and I would be glad to try to respond to them, or certainly get you answers if we can.
Does anybody have any questions about that? I guess that's a no.
And again, I would say, I know Mr. Joggerset is the architect that we've been, the department's been working with, so I would assume that he could go through the changes per the items the Architectural Review Board identified at its September 10th, 2020 meeting.
Yeah, if well, good evening, everyone. Travis, do you have the presentation pulled up?
Yes, I do. Give me a moment and I'll have my share screen.
Okay.
Travis, could you go to the first page? Thank you. Mr. Joggerset, I think we're ready.
All right. So we I guess provided the updates to the package submitted last month, and you know, there's not a whole lot to say here about the overall design statement and building design statement. Really, the edits are more within the presentation. So if we want to go ahead and go to the next sheet, the site plan. Um, so a few things here, a few of the notes that were taken last time. The board asked us to better coordinate these drawings with the civil engineering drawings, which we have done. So these better match the existing the canopy to remain, as you could see there on the south side, and the contours, both the existing contours and the proposed contours. I will mention that we are looking at other studies of this site with the comments from the Planning and Zoning Commission, and we are looking at some other options for this site to address some of those comments that are on that that list of comments and concerns. So, some of the things we're looking at is possibly changing the entry from Etherington to Wild Horse Creek Road and having more of a U-shaped entry instead of having that entry. And looking at how we place the building on the site. And we just added some more detail to this drawing. The section cuts, which are further in the submittal, you could see where those are taken. That was added. And really, that's about it on this sheet as far as the changes. Just an update to the floor plan as it currently sits. Overall, the building footprint really hasn't changed too much. That we've done some interior revisions to the kitchen and the apparatus-based support, but not a whole lot else to mention. One of the comments last time on the elevations was better identifying the material palette and where each material is going. We changed the brick numbering to better present the the main brick is BR1, so we changed that, and then we have an accent brick at the base, which is BR2, and then we have a very small band of BR3 in the corner is really an accent. And also, one question was asked about the material around the apparatus bay doors. We defined that here, and this is better. It's a stone veneer type product, and so these are, I believe, these are much more readable than they were before. We did not have these notes before to actually tie this into our material palette sheet. And the ALU1, that's an aluminum panel, and we're using that above the apparatus bay doors. And then also we're using that as well as above the storefront at the main entry to the right-hand side. So these correspond with the material palette sheet coming up. So we updated the renderings to better reflect the materials. And I know last time that they were harder to read. We hopefully everyone could see them better today at this presentation. So it just helps better define the materials in the palette. So if we can go to the next. So this sheet here, like I said, we reordered the brick types to correspond with the BR1, BR2, and BR3. And a couple questions that were asked last time that I'd like to clarify. The window system You asked what color that would be. We have an example here. The aluminum would be clear anodized. And also, I guess there was a question about the glazing and what type of glazing and what tint you would expect this building. And we have an image there of a similar project, the glazing at that building, and also the stone that we are proposing at this building as well. So that image on the upper right is a good representation of what we would design to.
That says your glass is 1/4 inch. I'm assuming that's really 1-inch glass.
That is correct. Yeah, it's 1/4 inch and with 2 1/4 inch panes and then a insulated airspace. But yeah, that is correct, sir. And also, a question was asked about the retaining wall and what we're looking at there. In the lower right-hand corner is a image of what we're looking at, a Versalock type retaining wall system, and we're looking to, have a color that kind of fits in with the building, but obviously it's not going to be a direct match, but at least it fits in with the building color palette. And I believe that covers most of the edits to this sheet. I don't know if there's any questions on the materials.
Any board members or anyone have any questions?
And
You're getting off easy tonight.
I just had one question at least for materials. I know we haven't gotten there yet, but on the next sheet, you have a section of what the retaining wall will look like, and it calls out a 6-foot privacy fence. I'm wondering what kind of material will be made out of, coloring, all that.
yes, so kind of walk through the detail. So we have like a guardrail type system first, closest to the parking, and then we have a light pole behind that, and then the privacy fence would be directly behind the retaining wall. So what we're thinking here is some type of PVC type retaining wall that would be a full screen. I guess one of the concerns that we're addressing is the fact that, there will be fire trucks driving up here and other vehicles, and we want to try to screen, the light from shining down on the adjacent properties. And also this will act as a visual screen as well to help the privacy of the neighbors. And also at that, just kind of talking about that retaining wall, we're also looking at, while the wall is going to be tall in some cases, upward of 20 feet, we want to do a landscape buffer, if you will, or screen at the base of that wall to help. Really, I'd like to see this better fit in with the site and the building, because the site's heavily wooded. So we want to respect that. And, while we are putting a wall there, we do want to help screen it and make it look like it's kind of part of the environment instead of just, a single retaining wall.
Were there any other comments that we made that you want to address specifically?
I guess a couple other comments that I'll kind of run through. I know we talked about the type of lighting fixtures and being sure that the fixtures shine on the property, not on the adjacent neighbors, and that's something we are considerate of, and we're going to look at putting shields on those and making sure the light it shines strictly on their property, on the parking areas. So that's something we talked about. I think I've covered most of what we discussed last time, but if there's any questions, please feel free.
Does any of the board members have any further questions? Kurt, you always have a question.
I guess my only question I would have is on the retaining wall. I mean, it's a very strict modular wall rather than possibility of having it more like a stone look rather than, to me, just as a little piece I got here, it looks like, a split face concrete block wall.
Right. And, it's a modular unit, so I get the dimensions of that unit they're pretty small, and let me look at that. I just want to make sure. Yeah, it's a 6-inch tall by 16-inch unit. We try to think about the scale too. We don't want to go in with anything that's heavier scale. We kind of like to go in with something that's more fitting with the building itself and the masonry.
Mhm.
So that's why we kind of we use these quite often, these types of walls. Now there is alternatives out there, to do kind of a bigger type of stone that would be more naturally, kind of look like a limestone or something like that. We've used that before too, in some cases. Mm-hmm.
And that's what I was thinking about. I was just asking a question about it. Yeah, I mean, that's really in the back and it's not really seen by anybody. I thought maybe a more natural looking stone. I mean, to me, this looks like like I said, a split face block wall, but it is smaller, sort of being 8'6". That's the cool.
That wall is when it's built will not be visible, but that doesn't mean in the future there won't be more houses or another business or something right there looking at that. And if it is 20 feet tall and rather plain, it might be it's a good comment because it is just the cheap square block. Looks like split face block. I don't know what the city's requirements are for that other than the Architectural Review Board aesthetic comments.
Well, the Department of Planning can accommodate a modular block wall, a boulder type wall, or any other alternative that might exist. Typically, you look for something a little bit more aesthetically pleasing. Not to say that a block wall has to be, but the department would appreciate any comments in this regard as it prepares its report for the purposes of presenting it to the Planning and Zoning Commission.
Anybody else have any suggestions on the wall? Comments?
I do, and I'm sorry, I don't know how to raise my hand. I was typing in the chat. Joe had put in his recommendation letter, a request the wall be a solid wall design. I'm not really sure what that entails, but I know being the owner of the house, the only house that's back there, I really don't want to look at a split face retaining wall. I don't think it's very attractive. It may match the fire station, but hopefully we won't see the fire station from back there, but we will see the block wall. Could you tell me what some alternatives are? And Joe, could you speak to what you were talking about in your letter of recommendation?
Well, in terms of the department's comments regarding the preliminary development plan, which is, for lack of a better term, the site plan, we had also thought about the pivot of the building, meaning switching around the active area of the 3 component building, the living quarters, the offices to the east side, and putting the apparatus, the two-story section to the west, which has less activity. Therefore, we wouldn't have as much paving for access. The wall may not be as lengthy as shown, and all in all, a less amount of disturbance to the site. My comment in number 2 is more about, even if there is a wall section and access to the rear of the building for fire apparatus, the department was hoping some type of solid wall could be used for sound attenuating purposes on top of the retaining wall, meaning a sound wall versus, let's say, just a fence. I'm concerned about the type of vehicles. They're larger, they're diesel types, and when they do maneuvering and et cetera, certainly in a residential setting, that sound can be very different. So mine was more about sound attenuation, not the retaining wall per se.
Deborah, are you raising your hand?
So could they use berms back there with plantings, and that way maybe would it look more natural instead of seeing the wall, and it would help with sound?
Well, I would defer to the engineers in the room, but given the slope, I don't think a berm would have to be very, very large and probably lead to more tree removal versus just an engineered solution like a retaining wall. So I think a good wall can be built. I think the goal right now, with the cooperation of the fire district, is see if we can minimize the length of the wall and shift more things to the east and even shorten it in the end in terms of height.
So what I'm hearing, go ahead, Denny.
Just one comment on more on the color of the wall, which is odd coming from me. The charcoal gray may fit well with the building, but if you're on the downside of that wall, the lower side of the wall looking at it, I doubt if there's anything. So it would seem to me something more of an earth tone, a brown, tan, darker brown might be a better colored choice than charcoal gray. Just thought.
That's a good comment. I agree.
For me, I would question, obviously, the proposing landscaping around the wall. I guess to what extent is that landscaping actually designed? Because if it's supposed to be a pretty tight, basically visual barrier, I'm not sure how much how the wall actually looks matters to a certain extent. So, if they're planting a lot of tall evergreens that are going to fill in, we're not going to see much of the wall.
Mr. Bartlesmeyer, that's a very good comment, but I guess from the department's perspective, we always assume that whatever landscaping is installed might die. And what we find is once it does die, it's very seldom replaced.
Okay.
And therefore, we look at it from the perspective of, if there was no landscaping, what would the wall look like? And we want to make sure it looks as aesthetically pleasing as possible. And then we get the icing on the cake with the landscaping.
Okay, makes sense.
It may make sense to me, but I wouldn't say that that's always true.
So do any members have any comments on the building? Are we finished commenting on the building itself? Good. So we're down to that retaining wall, and what we haven't seen was the fence on top of the retaining wall. I'd like to be able to give them approval for the building, but that brings up another question, that if the city is talking about rotating or moving the building, that does come back to the ARB for the aesthetics of how that's seen from the road. And I don't know how we handle that. If they change it all around, what does the ARB have to do, Joe?
Well, if they do follow the department's suggestion, and it is just a suggestion at this time, the Planning and Zoning Commission will make the ultimate decision. I believe that many of the components of the building will stay unchanged, meaning the materials, the colors, the style. For all intents and purposes, I see the western third of the building shifting to the eastern third and the eastern third shifting to the other, which simply stated would mean that I believe the Architectural Review Board would need to see it one more time, just to be assured that what you ultimately approved here tonight, if you choose to, is actually very close to what it looks like in practicality when built.
Are you saying they would be mirroring the building and moving building elements, changing the elevations?
That's my hope. So as, again, if the west side of the current building is where they have the employee parking, have the activity center associated with the building, if we can move that to the east side, that means the parking lot's next to Etherton Road, not the private driveway. And for all intents and purposes, as I look at the site plan, the majority of the retaining wall is to accommodate access to the west side of the lot.
Mm-hmm.
So as I say, it even seems to work a little better from the perspective of the western third of the building is the lengthier of the three sections. And moving it to the east again, I think just makes a less disturbance on the site. Now, again, this is just a suggestion, and the Planning and Zoning Commission will ultimately make the decision. And there may be some practical aspects that I don't understand in making the recommendation. But I think at the end of the day, the fire district has presented a aesthetically pleasing building that complies with the general guidelines of the Architectural Review Board. So my suggestion would be is if there is consensus to act favorably on the building, and let's see what happens. And if it needs to come back, it would be just another meeting.
Okay, I think that's very reasonable because I think the building is at a point where it would be approved from comments left. I think we would all like to see something better done with that wall, but from what you're saying, it may shrink to the point where it just doesn't matter.
Regardless of its size, we can bring that back to you. As you know, the retaining wall design may be one of the last aspects that an architect may have to deal with in terms of just creating the building, the architectural drawings for the building and the improvement sets, so to speak. But we'll bring that back to you regardless.
Okay. I agree with you on the site plan issues. It does seem a little bit that it could be a little bit more efficient laid out the way you were describing. The one thing I do want to mention, it's not really an ARB comment, but the fence, the light posts, and the guardrail, the highway guardrail on top of the retaining wall, put a lot of stress on the retaining wall, especially the top few courses. If things push on those, or if there's a little bit of erosion happening under the slab or behind the wall, which I've seen before, it can eat away and cause the top of that wall to fail. So there are some very specific details on how to hold up a fence and a guardrail on top of a retaining wall, and they're all structural. So I highly recommend that you make sure that that's all done right, talking to the architect now. Again, that's not something we would comment on, but I've seen it fail.
And Mr. Chair, to give acknowledgement, Ms. Logia, one of the members of the Architectural Review Board, is the person that made the suggestion about maybe flipping the components around the actual the actual parking base for the fire apparatus. So it was something she mentioned, and as I studied it, I think there's an opportunity there to make a better site design, a less site disturbance, and actually I would hope save taxpayers' dollars for the fire district itself.
I think it would. I think it's an extremely good design comment, and it almost has to save money if it works. So let's, if we can, let's go ahead and vote on it, make a motion. And I guess I can do that, make a motion to approve right now the building as it stands. But we do want to see the retaining wall and the fence on top of the retaining wall. And if, in fact, everything switches around, that we would need to see it again. Now, if the building just mirrors, we may not need to see that again because it's going to look the same just backwards.
Well, certainly given the motion, if in the end there is a major change due to a flip, so to speak, you'll see it again. But I think as a courtesy, you'll see it regardless. So as you feel comfortable with the decision you make tonight.
Okay. I also want to just make a statement that the architect and the fire district has done a good job on this. Very easy review. It seems like we're just stuck on that big retaining wall. Okay, so I need a second on that motion.
I'll second that.
All in favor? Aye.
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 No opposed, so that motion passes. Thank you, everybody.
Mr. Chair, that's the only item we have tonight. And if there are any questions of Travis or I, we'd like to thank the representatives from the fire district and the architectural firm for attending.
We do have one other small item on the agenda, and it's the selection of a vice chair of the Architecture Review Board.
Yes, we do.
Thank you,
And
Travis.
I have a recommendation, although that's all it is. I would like to, just based on seniority, I would like to see Kurt move into the vice chair and Bill Ritter move into the secretary. But that's just my recommendation.
I knew you were going to do that.
Aye.
You're going to make me talk.
Does anybody disagree with that? It's perfectly okay. It doesn't really mean anything to me.
I'm
I'm
okay.
new here, so I'm fine with it.
Okay.
Mr. Chair, if someone would like to make that in the form of a motion.
I'll make a motion to make Kurt the vice chair.
And
I will
Mr.
second that.
Ritter.
Okay, and then all in favor? Aye.
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 Any opposed? Hearing none. Kurt, you're the new vice chair. And now we need a motion for Mr. Ritter.
I'll make that motion for Mr. Ritter.
Second?
I'll second.
Thank you. And all in favor?
Aye.
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 Anybody opposed? Hearing none again. You are now the secretary.
Does it count if the nominee opposes it?
All right, so that takes care of the last item on the list. Our next meeting will be November 12th, if in fact there is a meeting.
Thank you all again for attending.
Okay, now we need a motion to close the meeting.
I'll make a motion to close the meeting.
Second on that.
Second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
It's kind of funny that we need a motion to close the meeting, but I guess we do. All right, thanks.
Hello.
Hello, Mr. Lee. We've
Hey,
attended
on
the
the-
meeting of
for
the
the next-
Architecture Review Board.
For the next meeting, please do not send me paper that has the link on it. Send me an email with the passcode because it doesn't work when you type this in.
Just touch it with your finger.
So yeah, is that you have to have a password so it doesn't hook up correctly.
Mr. Lee, I believe you did get an email with an active link.
I don't know. I can't find it. So I've got TCUT meeting, and then we get the P and Z, but I don't know which email box it comes in.
I'll check the distribution lists again.
Because it's not in the Wildwood email link that I have.
Well, for what it's worth, I got the email and I clicked on it and it worked this time.
Yeah, if you get the email and click, it will work. But if you don't get the email, like for people that would be published, with the link without the password, you can't get into the meeting.
Well, next time we will all send you individual email.
Just so that I have something.
Sounds like a personal problem to me.
No, that's all right. I get the other ones. This one I don't receive for some reason. I don't know where it goes. It could be that I have 5 different email addresses. So that's one of the problems I have.
All right.
All right. Well, sorry I missed it. I will make it work next time.
Goodbye.
See you.
Everyone, take care.